welcome to MusicEL Pathways, the podcast which focuses on the different pathways musicians take in order to reach their musical goals. Today we're going to be talking to a teacher here at MusicEL so that you can get to know them a little bit better. And our guest today is a world-travelling multi-instrumentalist with a vast amount of recording and performing experience who has settled here in Cornwall. Through his career, he has been involved in some amazing and life-changing initiatives and has now started working alongside us here at MusicEL. So today we have Ben Joseph. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Gary. Thank you so much for having me, my friend.
Yeah, no worries, man. As you might be able to tell, Ben is not from Cornwall.
I'm not, my friend.
But I'm sure we'll get into that.
Certainly.
So, as I said at the top, we're going to be looking at the ways in which musicians have developed those skills in order to reach their goals and eventually become professional musicians. And while doing this, we're also going to take a look at some of the amazing opportunities which music has given us throughout our careers. But to start off with, let's learn a little bit more about you. So what did music play as a role in your early years? What was its role within your life, I guess, when you started out?
Well, early on, so first, my grandfather was a big band drummer.
Amazing.
Up in Minnesota. And I have lots of cousins, aunts, and uncles that play instruments. My father owned a music club when I was growing up as a kid.
Oh, that's cool. So just to butt in quickly, what is a music club for us English people who might not have come across that?
Like a music venue, just like a pub / music venue for it was like a pub restaurant music club. Bands would play in the evening time, basically. Yeah, and the region I'm from is about 2.5 hours east of New Orleans, and so I'm from South Alabama originally, along the Gulf Coast, and Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Louisiana, that whole region in general is pretty musical. A lot of great music and music styles has come out of that region.
Yeah,
and I'd say
he doesn't know about New Orleans.
Indeed,
it's the jazz capital.
Yeah, and when I as early as age 5, I would listen to the radio with my mom and dad, and I could tell what the band was and what song it was, like within 5 seconds of listening to it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I had an ear early on.
When did you actually start playing, and what instrument was it that you started on?
I started singing in punk bands at the age of 13, and then shortly after that started playing harmonica and guitar.
That's a big step from jazz.
Yeah,
jazz to punk. Did you ever do the jazz thing, or was it like did it kind of like skip your learning and you went straight to the singing?
Straight to singing and then harmonica and guitar. And I didn't get into jazz music until I wasn't performing jazz really until London, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that is a funny thing that like sometimes the things that you grow up with don't come back to get you musically until much later on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so you were singing first.
Yeah.
And like, did you learn yourself or did you have a teacher? How did that go down? I'm guessing because it was punk, it was probably pretty self-led.
It was self-learned, but so throughout high school, I played in bands with kids who were in the school band, and my high school had actually had a really good school band. They would go do competitions, and I played in bands with those kids, so I learned from them, and just playing a lot, jamming a lot, really.
When did you start learning an instrument as opposed to just singing? No, don't
age 15 is when I started with I received a guitar and a harmonica.
Both at the same time?
At the same time, yeah. So.
Did you get one of those cool little like neck braces that you can hold the harmonica and play guitar?
Yeah, that's one of my that's one of my fortes actually. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Are you big into Bob Dylan, or that's what comes to mind when I think of that, like that format? Is my brain instantly goes to Bob Dylan, but it might be biased.
I was more into I at that age I wasn't really much into Bob Dylan. I've and I'm probably gonna get some backlash for this, but I've always been into Bob Dylan's songs and other people performing his songs rather than him actually performing them.
I can understand that. I mean, like, he's renowned really as a songwriter,
Yeah,
as opposed to a musician in my head, you know, and he's obviously, I think his lyrics, but then that
certainly.
is again songwriting, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I think people will understand that. I don't think you'll get too much flack for that one.
No, but I was more into the Neil Young school,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
would say.
nice. And did you have a teacher for your guitar or harmonica at any point, or was that pretty much self-led as well?
I didn't start actual lessons until I was at university
Okay,
doing an undergraduate degree. I used to play in bands with with a guy named Caleb Gambino,
all right,
um, and his dad is a pretty renowned guitar teacher and player in our area. So I used to go down in the summertime and take lessons from him. And then I did some flat picking lessons from Tommy Sorrells, who was based in Tuscaloosa, Alabama at the time, and
oh
he's
cool.
really good. So those are the guys I took lessons from.
Was it kind of more of like a learning from the people you're playing with sort of situation?
Yeah,
Because I think that gets overlooked quite a bit actually when people talk about practice and how they learn. They look over the musicians that they played with over the years, and if I always got told by one of my teachers that if you're the worst person in the band, you're in the best position to learn.
that's true. I've definitely been in that position before.
I've definitely been in that position, 100%. And I think, like he said, like you pick up so much and you learn from each other. So and it
Yeah.
gets dismissed quite quickly because they're not teachers,
Y-
but they are teaching you. You know.
Yeah. And with that said, that's what I try to tell the students I've had, because I've had, I have quite a few students online, and I know we're in a pandemic right now, but before the pandemic, or post, I tell them, like, because it's generally kids and high school age kids that I teach. I'm like, who any other kids your age playing in a band? Like, you need to go find them. Like, go find your friends. Like, you need to be playing with people your age and your skill level, because you guys are just, music is meant to be played together.
Yeah, I used to do the same thing. I'd go through. I'd take the kid up to the board of the other music lessons, and I'd just run through, like, if we got a bass player, I'd run through the drummers, and I'd be like, "Look, who do you know on this list? Cool, they're your drummer. Go find them. Go play with them." And like I do the same with my guitar students. You know, run through the list. Bam, there's a drummer. There's a bass player. Go get them and play some music. I mean, it's such a good way of learning. Have you always been like quite performance driven? Then has that always been like a big part of
Yeah,
your playing?
yeah. Like performing. Like, when I was even before doing undergraduate degree, I was actually playing bass in a covers band, which they call function bands in the UK.
They do indeed.
Was playing bass on the weekends. I had a regular weekly gig at a Little Willie's Blues Club in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, every Wednesday throughout my undergraduate degree. It paid the bills for the longest time.
And
Well, I mean, it's
that's pretty impressive.
yeah.
Paying
Um,
bills with music is difficult. You know, you do have to reach a certain level to be able to do that, don't you?
yeah, and in when I was in New Orleans, after I finished my undergraduate degree, I moved to New Orleans, and was performing at the Tropical Isle, which is like a music club. There's like a few of them on Bourbon Street, and was playing there every Friday and Saturday night for a couple years.
Amazing. That's cool. What was your like? What was your first performance like then? Do you remember that? Like when you?
Yeah, I was, yes, singing in a punk band, and the local coffee shop of Gulf Shores is like, it was a coffee shop slash music venue called the Coffee Merchant. So that's where all like the high school band would go perform. So
yeah. It was the
certainly
place to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it? Do you look back at it as like as a good memory or?
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely a good memory. Oh yeah.
yeah, and that's cool, isn't it? Like you can look back at something that early into your career and still look at it in a good light.
Oh yeah.
So on the adverse to that, then what was your best performance like? Then what was the one that sticks out in your head as like, oh man, that was amazing?
Oh man, that is such a tough question, Gary.
I know.
So I moved to after New Orleans. I moved to Switzerland with my partner. We were in Geneva and France, the country of France, and other francophone countries celebrate Fête de la Musique,
Okay.
which is or it's around June 20th every year. So the whole country, I think Belgium does it, Switzerland, parts of Africa, um, celebrate music. So every little town has their own music festival. And one of the, I played at this small French village near Geneva, and they had me. There was tons of people there. I had my own like dressing room. I had like my name on it. The
Oh my
fridge
god.
was stocked with like wine and food and cheese, and I was like, this is yes, this I can get used to this.
Basically, it was the extraneous extras which made it
Yes,
a good gig.
but it
What
was
about the
like
actual gig itself? Was it?
yeah, there was lots of people, a lot of good, great great reception. So it was I would say that maybe the extras, the perks, and then one performance. So I have a band, Ben Joseph and the Laylos, and we played at this venue. We played a lot of different venues in London, but there's one in Kilburn called the Good Ship. I don't even know if it's still open, but it was just a great crowd, and we just nailed the performance. Like so, that's
Do
another
you
good
find?
gig.
I was talking to Jamie about this, and in the last podcast, and the crowd really makes the gig. You know, when everyone's into it, that really like, you remember a gig where the crowd were great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like I said earlier, that the performance is big in music, but you've actually done a fair amount of recording as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so my undergraduate degree is music production and entrepreneurship, and while in New Orleans, I started a recording studio with my partner Ren Richardson, who's who's doing a lot of mixing. He just finished an album for a band that's certainly growing in popularity called Iceman Special. And he's working out of Esplanade Studios based in New Orleans. But
Is that a band to check out?
yeah, Iceman Special, yeah, that's like a
That's
psychedelic rock band.
nice.
Buddies of mine, William and Charlie, two brothers. I always love family bands. That's one thing. Most if there's family members in a band, chances of them being really tight are very high.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite bands is Biffy Clyro, and that is the drummer and bass player are brothers.
Ooh, love it.
Like,
Oh, I love it so
that's going to
much.
be a tight band. There's
Yeah,
no way if you've got brothers on, or even sisters on drums and bass,
yeah,
it's going to be tight.
yeah. But we started a just like a home recording studio in New Orleans. And then I've always you know people will ask me to play harmonica on their album or play some guitar, do some backing vocals. So yeah, I very much like recording. Um, I really wish I was more of a mixing engineer,
Yeah, I think
which I am.
it's definitely a skill set, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
people quite often get lumped into both. Because if
yeah,
you've got a studio, you have to record people in order to mix them. But actually,
yeah,
like on the in the big markets, when we're talking about actual tracks that a lot of people listen to, they're quite often set up in the studio by a particular person, recorded by a different person, then they are produced by someone else, and then mixed by another person, and then mastered by someone else. Like there's so many extra people in the chain. So,
and I think that's a good way to go too, because it's tough being a self-starting musician, because if you're writing, if you're recording, and you're mixing your work, you're gonna go insane
yeah.
listening to that same song like 100 times.
Yeah, and it's the beauty of the internet now as well, is that actually we can go back to doing that method, and you could get it recorded in Cornwall, and then get it mixed by someone in Los Angeles, and then get it mastered in Abbey Road,
Yeah,
and it won't cost as much as you're probably imagining it's going to cost, because you're not paying for someone's, like, you're not paying for like a full 2 days in the studio, so you're just paying for 1 day in the studio. So you've got that
yeah,
other lump of money to spend on
yeah,
mixing. So your strength lies more in recording than actually mixing,
yeah,
engineering.
yeah. I would say performing and recording. I mean, I do like to mix, Gary. I feel like I am good at mixing. It's just I'm so guilty of spending way too much time
Oh yeah.
on a tom and seeing which EQ is the best, or oh, maybe this compressor, maybe you know.
Yeah, yeah. I totally get you. I've fallen into the trap, and then no one worries, no one cares. They can't even tell the difference.
Exactly.
You actually forget to put down on all the effects, and no one even notices.
Yes.
Soul destroying. But so you've kind of developed this like performance and recording thing. How did your kind of instrumental and vocal abilities develop throughout that time then? So through that period of being in America, going over to Switzerland, coming back over here, did you kind of learn a lot earlier on and then kind of plateau through the rest, or were you on a quite steep incline? What was the learning path like?
I think moving to New Orleans was, and that was why I moved to New Orleans, was to further my education, my music education, and
Yeah,
I learned so much from that city about music.
I mean,
Um,
that's such an opportunity, isn't it?
yeah,
Like there's not many people in the world who get to go to a place that's so full of music, you know.
yeah. It it really is a wonderful city, and there's other cities that are starting to pop up in the U.S. that are going to start becoming, dare I say, music meccas.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's loads all around the world, you know. But I mean, like they're still getting that opportunity to move to them as well is just
yeah,
massive. So you made a massive amount of improvement when you were there.
I would say I made a massive amount of improvement, and then whenever I moved to Europe, I would say I improved. Um, I know it's kind of a strange thing to say, but I would say my stage banter
Yeah,
improved, because I was always kind of, you know, if you're singing and you're performing, I feel like talking to the audience, being able to like truly speak to your audience and keep them engaged is like, it's part of the performance arts essentially.
yeah. It's Jamie brought up the exact same thing in that, as performing musicians, you've got to be a presence, haven't you, on the stage? You can't just rock up, play a song, and go away. Especially if you're a front man, you know.
Yeah, and with that said, I would say it it is a little more reserved in the UK than the US. Because
Is it different? Like, what's the spiel like in America versus the UK?
I would say stage presence. Maybe
Right.
I think in London you have a lot of there's a lot of original music being made by 18 to 20 something year olds from all the world that are in London making music, going to these music schools. But I would say I was maybe once or twice out of maybe at least 100 bands I saw this no stage presence. and I feel like I had to like reel it back a little bit, because if you're playing pop, rock, even folk music, like, move, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
unless it's like shoegaze rock, I don't know.
I think there's like I don't know. I think there is a bit of a arc for like English musicians and how we have stage presence. Like I know back when I was kind of younger, and that like mid 2000s music was coming in, stage presence was almost more important than your
Mhm.
actual music you were playing.
Yes, exactly.
And then like it was like the thing. Like it actually didn't matter if you played a wrong note, if you were doing like a sweet karate kick while you were while you were playing, or whatever it might have been.
I still hold those principles. I would rather see, if I'm watching a performance, I would rather see someone do a backflip off of a stage and hit the wrong note than them hit the right note and just like stare down at their shoes.
I mean, it's a way of demonstrating that you're enjoying yourself, isn't it?
Certainly.
And I do think it's a bit infectious. So yeah, maybe that's like if you're looking to be a performing musician, it's something you need to practice. Is
Yeah.
that having that presence, and it like again, it's something that can be so easily overlooked because you spend so much time instrument focused, which is obviously really important, but you don't actually focus on playing the instrument. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, there's a flip side to that coin that they say in Nashville. Like when you see, really good country pop artist, and you see their the backing band, which are
Yeah.
probably really good musicians, they might not have that much stage presence, but the term they like to use is, I think, quietly killing it is what they like to say.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a like a bass player thing in that we get called like ghosts sometimes. So we we just like stand in the background doing our business.
Yeah, I
You know,
love a high
it
energy
works for
bass
some guys.
player. Yeah. It's either I either yeah, it's like either A, high energy bass player, or B, you have the bass player sitting there in the back with the drummer just sitting there grooving on it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely an A bass player. I have hurt my bass far too many times along with other people. Yeah, so also maybe practice not hitting other people with your instrument. That's
That's good
probably another
practice.
one. Yeah, it's a good thing to practice. I should have done more of that. Maybe that's what I'll practice after I've done this maybe. Have you got any further tips that you tell your students, like something that you specifically instrument focused that you might say to your students?
Yeah, definitely. One of the main things I say, and I will keep stressing it, if any of my students are listening, listen up. If you can hum it, you can play it. That is just like the biggest tip. If you're having trouble with a phrase, I have beginners that are learning Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes or whatever. I'm like, bum 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 bum. And I'll tell them, I'm like, hum it for me. Um, and I also tell students, like, really listen and enjoy what you're listening to.
Yeah.
The songs that I have my students learn are songs that I like, and I think they should learn. Songs that their parents like, which they probably like, and music that they like too. I
Yeah,
think those three.
I go for that same track as well. Like, because if you don't enjoy what you're playing, then what's the point in playing it really? Unless you've got a very specific focus on, I want to get this technique and use it in the songs that I like, but this song is the best way of doing it.
Yeah,
But then I guess you're enjoying it because you're focusing on that technique.
yeah.
But I think the humming thing is a great tip actually. Like I had a teacher who basically would make us sing the notes that we're playing as we
Mhm.
played them,
That's
and
good.
it's left me with this weird like technique where I can sing a run and then play it instantly, or I can just if I play a root note, I can sing the next note I'm going to play.
Yeah.
which is obscure. I'm never going to play, and it's that like I remember watching David Gilmour at Live Aid, and he sang in harmony with his guitar on a solo, and it's basically that same technique in that you kind of predict the pitch you're jumping to, but it makes learning songs so easy because if I can sing that jump, then I know where it is on the bass.
Yeah,
just like you said.
Yeah, that's a good practice. So yeah, I tell students, just put your headphones on, close your eyes, and really listen. For enjoyment at first, and then analyze it and deconstruct it. Take a look at what's happening in the song.
Oh, I guess we'll kind of get near the end now. The last question is kind of mirroring our first in that we looked at how music affected you in your early years, listening to jazz with your parents.
Yeah.
How does music affect you now as an adult? Like all of that learning, all of those experiences that you've kind of gone through, how's music now kind of affecting your life, I guess?
Well, that's a really tough question, Gary.
The tough ones are the good ones.
Yeah, I feel like music. I can't say that it's changed much. It still affects me in the same way. I derive my income from it. I make connections through it. I use writing. I've always used songwriting and composing as a coping mechanism. If things aren't going well, or if things are going well, I write about that. If I'm feeling down, I listen to my favorite songs, some of my favorite artists. If I'm feeling good, I put on songs that make me feel good.
What songs what songs being played at the minute?
Songs being played at the minute. I'm listening to a lot of it varies, but a lot of Django Reinhardt, who's a great guitarist.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of Motown, like the Marvelettes, and when I exercise, I listen to like the old punk rock that I used to listen to.
High energy.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Varied.
Yeah, very varied, yes.
But that's nice. Like I think that if you can accept music for what it is and you don't have to like one kind of music or specifically be like, I only listen to this one kind, because some music does fit certain occasions, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it sounds like it still is entangled in your life as much as it was when you were a child.
Yeah, it's more so. I moved to London to do a master's degree, and my intention was to just focus on school, but I was approached by a drummer who was like, I really like your music. I'm going to put together a band. And he put together a band, and I was gigging in London, which was tough. It was really tough to be focusing on a master's degree and gigging at the same time. But any time I've tried, there's only been a couple times that I've tried to step away from music or performing. The universe is like, no. Where do you think you're going? And then drags me back in. So
I think that is the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
So it's been great having you on, Ben.
Oh, pleasure.
And I hope our listeners have managed to gain some inspiration from this podcast, and they want to sit down and grab their instrument and play along and hum the tunes, just like Ben recommends. And I'll just leave you with the last thought, and that is, remember, every path leads you to your goals eventually. So make sure you take every one you can. And until next time, I'm going to say bye. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.